Hi, I'm Ron Quint. With nearly 2,000 wines at the Boston Wine Expo, how do you possibly navigate it? Well, you should always drink what you like, but you should also come with a plan. And today with me are three guests of Wine Inside Out TV who can help you develop a plan. Nick, where do you start?
As long as you do a little bit of homework first, you can really get so much more out of the experience. And I like to really attack the Wine Expo by looking at what I want to get out of the Wine Expo. And it doesn't necessarily have to be the wines you normally drink. It doesn't have to be if you really enjoy Cabernets. You can definitely go out and try your Cabernets, but you can also go and try something new. Your Merlots, your Bordeauxs. The Wine Expo this year is going to be segmented in 4 different regions, one of which is the Mediterranean portion of Europe, the rest of Europe, North America, and then the Southern Hemisphere. So not only can you attack things by varietal, but you can also look forward and go towards regions. They'll have the floor plans as well as a web app up a little bit early, so you're able to plan ahead and really kind of discover some more wine.
Michael, what's your plan?
Well, for me, I tend to latch on to particular grape varietals, and I'm going to look at the Expo website, and I'm going to see, okay, I want to try out more Grenache. I'm a fan of Grenache. I've had 1 or 2 in the past couple of weeks. I've really been turned on to. I've had some Chateauneuf de Pape, but I want to see what the world has to offer for this grape varietal. I want to see what else is out there. So I'm going to again look at the Wine Expo website, do a little bit of homework. What countries specialize in it? Is it the Central Coast, where they're blending maybe a little bit of Grenache with some Syrah? Is it Australia, where they're having GSM, Grenache Syrah Mourvedre blends? Is it going Chateauneuf de Pape and then looking around those regions like Baccarat, Gigondas? I'm going to take an entire global view of these particular grape varietals. It does involve a little work at home, but again, if you do this work up front, you're not going to be staying there when you walk into this giant hall, faced with thousands of wines, and wonder, where do I even begin?
Noon, what's your plan for the Wine Expo?
I like to take a different approach, especially if you haven't done your homework. I like to go approach it with food pairing. If I like Italian food, I would go to the Italian aisle. If I do like food from Argentina, I would go to Argentinian aisle. Let's say if I like steak, then of course I would head down to the California aisle.
This is really interesting because each of you have kind of come at this with your own view in terms of, food and wine pairing, more of a grape driven approach. And then Nick, you mentioned, something about region. So let's say, for example, if I'm a fan of Argentinian Malbec, what are some other, could you maybe kind of walk me through what would be maybe a similar place to that? And Michael, maybe could you walk me through what would be a similar grape? And Noon, how would you go about pairing that food? Nick, why don't we begin with you?
Well, my strategy for going was really by the country or by the region. And so going there, if I was a large fan of Argentinian Malbec, I would immediately go there in the South America section and be able to look around and start experiencing more of those hardy red wines. So if you're looking into Argentina, Mendoza is the classic area where you can find Malbec. Even a little bit further south in Argentina, you can go down to Patagonia, try a little bit of lighter styles. You can go west over to Chile and try some Carmenere, which is usually blended with some Cabernet or some other varietals. It's a deep, dark, very, very extracted big wine. And even in South America, there's an emerging region of Uruguay where they're producing a lot of really hardy wines with a grape called Tannat.
I've had that before, and it is indeed a hardy wine. Michael, what about you? How do you take grape and translate it into a plan?
Well, if I'm looking around the world, Malbec is really only grown in a pretty small number of vineyards. Argentina probably being the first and foremost. Outside of that, you got to look to somewhere like Cahors in France. But that's not a huge region, and it's pretty niche. So there might be a couple of bottles of Cahors out there, but there's not going to be enough to really fill up your time at the expo. The other places that you might find Malbec or Malbec's style of wine, you got to look at the glass. You got to look at what Malbec delivers, and that's big, full-bodied, thicker skin varietals. So something like Merlot. Merlot is often drawn parallels with Malbec, much to many people's chagrin because Merlot is out of style. But try some Merlots. If you like Malbec, if you like that big, fruit-forward, jammy, juicy flavor profile, then probably you're going to like some Merlots from California, from Washington State. You're going to like, maybe some Syrahs from Australia. You're going to like California. You're going to even like some of these Spanish wines. Spain's a great inroads into Europe if you are not familiar with European wines, because there's a lot of tradition in Spain, but there's also a lot of thinking forward. There's a lot of trying to capture this new wine drinker in the marketplace and they're trying to give these wines, an attractiveness right out front, which will give you more of a fruit-forward style of wine, similar to Malbec.
Noon, let's say if you like pairing, Malbec and grass-fed Argentinian beef, where do you go from there?
Absolutely. When you think about that, you want to think of places that has a Spanish influence in their cuisine. So where does that lead you? You have so many choices going out there. You can actually try some wonderful red from maybe some Monastral, that is being grown in Australia. You have sherry. You have the different kind of fortified wine, Amontillado sherry. You have Fino sherry. Different things to offer, and that's the best place is at Boston Wine Expo because you can get to taste them all at one place.
So as you can see, there's a lot of different ways to get your plan started, whether it's by drilling down on a region, expanding on a grape, or as Noon said, bringing in food and culture. So we hope that when you come, this guidance today will help maximize your experience at the Boston Wine Expo. Thank you. I'm Ron Quint.